Hey everybody, Mr. Murphy here. I'm going to go over the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis. So looking here, you have an overview of the entire process. This is what's happening inside of a single chloroplast. We're going to be narrowing it down basically just to the left-hand side of this. So the quick version of it is that we have light and water coming in, along with these depleted energy-carrying molecules. I like to think of these as like dead batteries. They've been used up and they're coming in looking to be charged by the energy from the light. And then what's coming out is we have oxygen as a byproduct, which thankful for that because we breathe it. And then also the charged up versions of those batteries, ATP and NADPH. At first glance, this process is a little crazy. I'll be honest, it's actually my favorite topic to look at in biology. I find it absolutely fascinating how it works out. Unfortunately, or fortunately for you, we're not going to go into all the details right now, but here's the gist of what's going on. This is looking at the membrane of an individual thylakoid. Thylakoid's the little discs inside of the chloroplast. And what's happening is in the membrane of this, we have these chlorophyll proteins. And those chlorophyll proteins, as we saw before, pigments are really good at capturing the energy from sunlight. So what happens is light actually travels through the plant cell, through the cell membrane, through the membrane of the chloroplast, and into the membrane of the thylakoid. And when it does that, the energy from that light actually causes electrons to get excited. And when those electrons get excited, they're able to leave the chlorophyll, and they bounce around between some different proteins. And in this case here, looking at this one, this electron right here is going to follow this path and end up on a different chlorophyll protein. Okay. In the process of that, its high energy ability is that it's going to allow these hydrogen ions to be pumped across the membrane. So this is active transport of hydrogen ions. And what's going to happen is we're going to slowly get a lot of hydrogen on the inside of the thylakoid. Okay. Meanwhile, over here, another electron's getting excited, and this one's going to actually end up combining with NADP plus and a hydrogen to form NADPH. So that was one of our energy-carrying molecules. So the energy from the light excites an electron, which turns into NADPH along with the other ingredients. Okay, that actually takes away some H's from here on the outside, which means now we've got tons of hydrogens on the inside, not so many on the outside. And as you know from learning about diffusion and osmosis, the diffusion of these hydrogens, they really want to get outside of this membrane because we have so many jam-packed in here. And there's a protein that's happy to let them pass through, and it's called ATP synthase. And ATP synthase is pretty cool because I like to think of it as kind of like a revolving door. You know, if you've ever gone through one of those, you have to push on it and the door's spinning around. They can get scary if you go too fast. But I think of it about it that way because imagine if you had one of those revolving doors, except you made it really like a little bit tough for people to push through. And as people push through, maybe you had it wired up so it would like charge your cell phone or something, right? Like you're mooching some of the energy of the people physically pushing through that door in order to do something else. That's exactly what ATP synthase is doing. ATP synthase is like, hey, come on through, hydrogens, but as you come through, I'm going to mooch just a little bit of your kinetic energy, and I'm going to use that to create ATP. And that's what's happening here. So there's our second product of the light-dependent side. We have the NADPH, we have the ATP, both of our energy-carrying molecules, which is awesome. But there was one more piece, if you recall, and that's that the light-dependent side is also creating oxygen. So if we go all the way back here to the beginning of this process, notice we're losing electrons here. And if you just keep losing electrons, this thing's going to become really positive. And then it's going to sort of mess up the chemistry and the whole thing's going to shut down. This little chlorophyll here doesn't matter because every time it loses an electron, it's gaining one from back here. But this one, the first one, is just losing those electrons. Well, as you might guess from looking at the diagram, what happens is because it needs more electrons, it encourages water molecules to actually split. And when water molecules split, they form more H pluses and they form O2 gas. And in the process of that, they lose an electron. So it donates an electron here. So actually, if you ever stop to think, like, why does a plant actually need water? Well, for photosynthesis, yes, but actually it only needs it to give the electrons to keep photosynthesis happening, which is probably a way weirder answer to that question of why do plants need water than you expected to find. Anyway, I think this stuff's cool, and you will answer some questions about this. Please email me if you have any questions, concerns about any of it, and I hope that was helpful. Thanks.